All right, we're going to look at the notes from today's lesson. So it says here, identify where the Nile River is, and it is in Egypt. Let's look at the next question. How long is the Nile River? You should have gotten 4,000 miles. So at any point in this video, if you need to pause and add extra notes to yours, please feel free to pause and add the extra notes, because if you didn't put something, if you didn't add it in there, you need to make sure you have it in your notes, because you might see it on a quiz or a test. All right, identifying. What resources does the Nile River provide? Water for drinking and growing crops, and fertile soil. So you want to make sure you put all of that. All right, so if you need to pause the video now, you need to do that. Let's look at number 4. Cover my answers up. All right, identifying. Why did the people settle near the Nile River? It was a source of water in the middle of a desert. So remember, they have the Sahara Desert on the west side. There's like part of the Sinai Peninsula that's desert, and so they're really stuck right in between deserts. Why was the Nile River important to early Egyptians? Well, it provided water for drinking and growing crops in the middle of a desert. It also provided fertile soil. Okay, question number 6. How did the Nile River and nearby deserts help early Egyptians? The Nile's cataracts, and remember that's places in the river where it's really dangerous. It's a lot of times hard to travel because it has rapids. So the Nile's cataracts and marsh delta protected Egyptians from invaders. So invaders couldn't just really sail down the river without encountering cataracts and the delta. The river also provided a way to travel and transport goods. The desert was too large, hot, and dry for enemies to cross. So normally people wouldn't cross a desert like the Sahara, so they really wouldn't come to Egypt. So it had natural protectors there. All right, so let's look at this. Comparing civilizations. We're talking about Mesopotamia last chapter, comparing it to ancient Egypt. How did the effects of the desert affect development of Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt? So Mesopotamia, deserts were protected, and left Mesopotamia open to attacks. For Egypt, desert provided a protection from invaders. It was a natural barrier. All right, let's look at number 8, 9, and 10 on this page. Comparing civilizations. It says, how did the effects of rivers affect development of Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt? So again, Mesopotamia rivers, remember, were unpredictable, and it made it hard to grow crops. They did not bring city-states together. Egyptian rivers allowed Egyptians to travel to and form bonds with other villages, so they could trade using the rivers. So they could go to other city-states. All right, determining cause and effect. Without the Nile River, Egyptian farmers would not have been able to grow food. As you read the text, identify at least 3 ways the Nile River helped farmers grow food. Flooding. So floods helped farmers. Floods were regular and predictable. Okay, so farmers could predict when floods would happen. Floods brought fertile soil and water to their fields, so it brought in silt, good fertile soil, and gave their fields water. And farmers could use the Nile River to irrigate their crops in the dry season. Okay, and they knew when the floods would happen, unlike the Tigris and the Euphrates. What were hieroglyphics and papyrus? Tell how the Egyptians used them, and why were they important? Hieroglyphics were a system of writing developed by the Egyptians to record ideas and information. Papyrus is a reed used to make paper that's grown on the Nile River on the banks. Egyptians used hieroglyphics to record and preserve their ideas in writing. All right. Last 2 questions. Checking your work, making sure you have the right answers. Why did Egypt need an organized government? Well, Egypt was growing and its farming and trade increased as it was growing. They had a surplus of food, and an organized government was needed to help with farming and irrigation plans and food storage, because they would store food for famine and to settle the land disputes. So that was why it was important that they have an organized government. Who was Namar, and how did he help bring Egypt together? Namar was the king of Upper Egypt. He conquered Lower Egypt. and established a new form of rule called a dynastic rule. So it's a dynasty. It was when it's all within the family. That is all of lesson 1 notes. If you needed to pause at any time, I hope you did and got the notes that you needed. We're ready to move forward with lesson 2. I hope you have a really good understanding of Egypt right now, because